Greetings, Night Owls. Welcome back to the show and welcome to Oblivion as always. We want to thank you for once again allowing us into your living rooms as we talked this week about Late Night with the Devil, the phenomenon sweeping the country right now. I'm Dusty Lane.
I'm Jason Mitchell.
And we are the Cinebytes.
Hello?
I came for you. We have such sights to show you.
It was an excellent day for an exorcism.
I said, I'm not gonna hurt you. I'm just gonna bash your brains in.
I want to play a game.
What's the boogeyman?
As a matter of fact, it was. This is God.
We all go a little mad sometimes. Haven't you?
But sometimes that is better.
All right, everyone, 5 seconds. Stand by. 4, 3, and we're live. Welcome back, everybody. How is it going? What's happening, Jason? How you doing, man?
Yeah, dude. I wanted to make sure that we got this movie in. It is so hot on social media right now.
Dude, lots of devil talk around the interwebs and a lot of devil talk here in the studio today. We just recorded our Ready or Not episode. So yeah, we got the devil all up in this bitch today. This movie, man, apparently it was a 2023 release, but US release was 2024. So last March it had a release, and apparently there was some criticism, which I was actually going to point out as well. Like all the title cards between like them going in and out of break, basically, were AI generated, which I heard about that and I was like, man, come on. Hey, speaking of the devil.
Right.
That's what AI is.
I agree with that too, but I guess if it's not replacing actors or actresses, it doesn't bother me as much.
It's replacing someone who could have made that art with their hands.
That's true, but everything's digital anymore anyway, too.
I suppose, but
it's
look,
a double-edged sword.
I can see some of the practical applications of AI, and yes, it is useful in different ways, but at the same time, you can't go too far with it.
Right.
And I feel like maybe replacing this poor art department employee is possibly going a little too far.
Yeah, I guess I can agree with it.
So this movie, written and directed by Cameron Cairns or Carnes and Colin Cairns or Carnes, brothers, I do believe. This is an hour and 33 minutes. Now, I thought it felt like it went by faster than that the first couple of times I watched it.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like that. It's a pretty quick, even though it's weird because it's slow burning too.
It definitely is, yeah. R-rated, obviously. We get some crazy, gnarly effects a little bit later on. Going through the cast list, first of all, I wanted to mention David Dastmalchian, which I'm probably saying that name incorrectly as well. He's fantastic. The first time I saw him was in The Boogeyman not that long ago.
Okay.
And apparently he was in the Suicide Squad movie. Didn't really see much of that. But this movie, he kind of had me.
He's good.
He was definitely good.
He's good.
He definitely is. We also have Laura Gordon as Dr. June Ross Mitchell, Ian Bliss as Carmichael Haig, Faisal Bazi as Christu. That guy,
okay.
He was pretty fun.
Yeah.
Ingrid Torelli as Lily, Reese O'Terry as Gus, Georgina Haig, I believe, played Madeline, and Josh Kwong Tart as Leo, the producer.
Hell yeah.
Cinematography by Matthew Temple, and music by Glenn Richards and Roscoe James Irwin, excuse me.
I wonder if that's accounting for the band on the show.
Well, I did in the cast list when the credits were scrolling. It had a whole, like, I think there were like 9 people in the band.
Okay.
So obviously this isn't crediting all of them, but I think Glenn Richards was one of the ones that wrote a lot of the score, like the original compositions and stuff.
I was curious about that, on if the band was a band or on if somebody wrote it and they were just band actors. You know what I'm saying?
No, I as a musician, I was paying attention to what they were playing, and at certain times it seemed like it was kind of off. But I noticed more often than I didn't that it seemed like the band was actually playing.
Okay, cool.
So that's pretty cool.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, man. I feel like the cinematography and the music are on point 1,000%. Like, this feels like a late night talk show television broadcast.
Yeah, absolutely. It feels like the 70s, too.
Start to finish.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
for sure.
Everything about the vibe. And all the way down to the casting. Everybody in this movie looks like they were ripped straight out of the 70s.
Right.
Like, a lot of times people will, have a period film and they'll cast people and you're just like, that person just doesn't belong there. Like Jessica Biel in the Texas Chainsaw remake.
Right.
She just doesn't look like she could have existed in the 70s.
Right.
But I think the one that looks most like it is probably Lily. Like, that little girl looks like she was an extra on the Brady Bunch.
Right, she does.
It's insane.
Agreed.
So some of the production companies involved here: Image Nation, Abu Dhabi, Vic Screen, AGC Studios, Good Fiend Films, Future Pictures, Spooky Pictures. This movie starts with 9 production company cards. Holy shit. Yeah, that's what I said. Don't say what I said.
So here's my thing is, I guess because of the way that this movie is set up, I didn't know that all that was real or not. You know what I mean?
Oh.
So like when there was a lot at the beginning for me,
yeah,
it felt 70s right away, and it was kind of, is this a talk show starting? Is this, you know what I mean?
It kind of ended up going into another of what could have been another production company logo thing.
Right.
But that was the TV then starting the documentary footage at the
Right.
beginning of this. But yeah, I was sitting there like that's part of the reason why I thought that this was maybe a bit of a shorter movie, all said and done, content-wise, because when this movie, the runtime that I was looking at on my screen started, we then get those 9 production company graphics. And then, we do have I think it's like 8 minutes or so of documentary stuff at the beginning. And then accounting the credits at the end, I was like, well, damn, this movie feels like it's just a little over an hour. The runtime is an hour and a half. But I wonder how much of that is taken up by those things.
Right.
Distributed by IFC Films, Shudder, Umbrella Entertainment, Maslow Entertainment, Ahi Films.
Shudder. I love Shudder.
Shudder rules, dude.
I love it.
Hell yeah. So basically, our plot is that we've got Mr. Midnight, Jack Delroy, who is trying to save his floundering show. Like, apparently he had success. He did.
Mm-hmm.
Moderate success, at least. But just couldn't get over that damn Johnny Carson, man.
Right.
Son of a bitch.
Go figure, man.
So, spoiler alert, everybody. Turns out he, through his friends at the Grove, right, he sells his soul to the devil, essentially, to have the success on his show.
Right.
But yeah, the actual opening of this is an old TV on a stand. And it's on the Night Owl set, and it starts with like some static on the screen.
Mm-hmm.
But we zoom into it, and it's like a bunch of footage from 1970s America. We got like a montage going on. They talk about the energy crisis. There are shots of Vietnam, Nixon, the Manson family, Son of Sam, David Berkowitz. They mentioned something about they're entering a satanic age. And there's a comment made about television documenting the chaos and beaming the horror into your living rooms. And there's a quick shot of a guy that we'll be introduced to later, that's Xander Diabo. He says something about, and so it is done, which is something that will follow us all the way to the final image of this movie.
Right.
Which I think is a biblical reference, if I'm not mistaken. So the television VO guy on this documentary footage is like, but television also offers comfort. April 4th, 1971 is the first episode of UBC's Night Owls. That airs, and the network is UBC hopes for a late night hit, and that hope is resting on the shoulders of a popular Chicago radio announcer, Jack Delroy.
Jack Delroy. I love this guy, man.
Yeah, dude. David Desmalchian is so good at acting, speaking, moving like a late night talk show host.
Right.
Like, again, and looking like he's just from the 70s. But all the way down to the hand gestures, man. He fits that so perfectly. I wonder how many hours of tape he studied.
Right.
Of Merv Griffin and Johnny Carson and, whoever.
See, I think he got some of it from some of those old game shows, man, like Password and stuff. Like he looks like he walked off on one of those sets. It's so good, and he hits it so well.
1,000%. So the studio, are we in New York here? I believe.
I'm really not too sure.
Okay.
Big city for sure.
When the first time we see him introduced, he makes a comment about, I want to thank everyone involved in making this a success and everyone behind the scenes that have helped along. And he says something about, I know my mom and dad are watching the TV right now with a big smile on their face, watching The Tonight Show with Johnny Carson.
Right, yeah. Fuck. Yeah, they know who the competition is. You know?
Right. The VO guy comes back in. He's like, with an entertaining mix of interviews, music, and sketch comedy, he captures the hearts and minds of midnight America. We get like a little montage of guests on the show. One of them, I'm pretty sure might be Jack Black doing like a Pavarotti.
I didn't notice that. I'm going to have to go back and check that.
There's like a quick sketch of like women's rights in cave times, and people are like holding up signs that say like Crawgettes are people too.
Right.
There's another guest that is like one of the animal handlers, like Jack Hanna or something like that.
For sure.
But she has something, she says like a bird-eating spider, but apparently it got out of the box and into the audience.
Yeah, they're over there telling people to lift up their feet.
Yeah. Gus runs over and he's trying to like shoo it away. But all of these segments that we're seeing end up coming back at the end.
Right.
This movie is so fucking well crafted. Like, I love this movie. November 1972, Jack signs a deal with the UBC owner, Walker Bedford, and we get a quick comment of, welcome to the UBC family, Jack, which that's another thing. Pay attention to that. Write it down. We'll come back to it. There's a guy that makes a comment, like in the press, witnessing this signing, and he's like, what did you have to sacrifice to get here tonight?
Oh, I didn't catch that either.
Mm-hmm. There's also a Hollywood Observer cover of, it says Jack Delroy, the thinking woman's sex symbol, which is an interesting spin on the late night show talk show host, I feel like. He does seem a little more accessible and sensitive, maybe, I guess.
Right.
Apparently he did receive an Emmy nomination and growing audience share, whatever the fuck that is. And it said Jack's sights were set on the coveted late night crown. The next thing that pops up on the screen scared me a little bit. Because it was a newspaper clipping, and it says that the previous late night host died in a freak elevator accident.
Oh, shit.
And Jack has a little funny comment about it, and he says, when he said he was going down in the elevator, I never thought he meant it literally. Which is funny, but maybe a little soon, Jack.
Right.
But this previous late night host's name? Des Lane.
Oh.
That's a little too close for comfort, man.
Do you know this person?
I don't. But it's awfully close to Dusty Lane. Isn't it? There's another image of like a magazine cover, and it's like Jack to Johnny says, you're in for a fight.
Right.
They mention that Jack's wife, Madeline Piper, was a stage actress, and they were one of showbiz's happiest and most enduring couples, but she was not his only source of support.
Ooh. ...
Which is when we get our introduction to the Grove. Ooh.
Dang. So, the Grove is evidently a men's-only club, and they call it a summer camp for the rich and powerful.
So, importantly, it's in the Redwoods of California, which we get a reference later to the tall trees.
Right.
So keep that in mind as well. Established in the 1800s, rumors abound of this place. Like, they had a bunch of members that were politicians, entertainers, and captains of industry. They had a bunch of like weird rituals going on. They said it was a harmless summer camp, but like all of a sudden there was speculation around its taste for arcane ceremony. And there are clips of like, there's this cool ass owl statue, like across a lake, which looks like the face that's in the static in the TV at the end when the signal cuts out, maybe.
Okay.
I don't know. I'm just kind of speculating on that. But there's a clip here of basically what happens at the end where someone is forced to their knees and made to drink something while like everybody screams around them.
Right.
And then Jack is kind of put in that position at the end. And it was said that the Grove had the power to make or break careers.
Ooh.
So that's our connection here to Jack's success. But apparently through 4 seasons, regardless of the Emmy nominations and the success that they have achieved, their ratings still failed to match Carson. Plenty of nominations, but no trophy. I like this little political cartoon of, it's like a boxing match and Jack is like in the corner getting all beaten up by the person standing there with their trunk says JC on it with a crown above it.
Right.
So Johnny Carson.
Hell yeah.
There's a mention here of like, history only remembers kings. So in September 1976, Madeline was diagnosed with terminal lung cancer. She makes an appearance on the show in October in a wheelchair with an oxygen tank. She mentions, Jack and I met when I was doing Occult at the Eden. You should have seen him blush when he came backstage and was confronted with all those glorious naked bodies. How's a girl not supposed to fall in love with that?
Yeah, it's so sad, you know? Ouch.
Yeah. And you're sitting there with their little oxygen tank next to her.
Right.
Oh, man.
Heavy.
Apparently, this is the highest rated episode in Night Owl's history, but still fell a point short of Carson.
Right.
At the end of that clip, she quietly says, I love you, Jack, and then he mouths back, I love you too, Minnie.
Yep.
Importantly. Not Madeline. Minnie.
Yeah. Minnie.
But 2 weeks later, she dies. And the sound design on this movie is cool all the way down to when it mentions that she is now deceased, the oxygen tank like hisses.
Oh, shit.
Like it's like running out.
Yeah.
It was really cool. So we go to more images of a grieving Jack. They said he shuns the media and flees New York. So yes, there's a confirmation.
Yep.
It is New York. A month later, UBC announces his return.
Yay.
But there's a gap between Delroy and Carson, and it continues to widen. So Jack and Leo Fisk, his producer buddy, go out of their way to make the show controversial, which reminded me a lot of like Andy Kaufman and his antics back in the day.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
There's like a Marine that's fighting like a draft dodger on the show. Jack is like arm wrestling a little person.
Yeah, a bunch of ridiculous ass stuff.
There's this, I don't know who she is, but she's like, you used to be the fucking man, Jack. What happened to you? Like,
Right.
And he gets all pissed off and he's like, oh, well, we're going to go to break. I'll be back. You won't.
Yeah, anything they can do for ratings at this point, they're kind of reaching. I think they make it a point to say something about his contract is running out. But there's one thing that I want to know. I know you were grieving, Jack, but where'd you go?
Well, was it at that point that he went to associate himself with the Grove, or did that already take place?
I think he was already associated. I think he was ready, you know.
Because the reason everything happened with Madeline, I think
Mm.
tied back to that.
I gotcha. Okay.
So yeah, ratings are in free fall. Sponsors are nervous. Contract is set to expire. Everything is on the line when Sweeps Week begins. Ooh,
Yeah.
Sweeps Week. Which I never knew what the fuck that was either. Speaking of things like that and audience share, I think my first introduction to it was Bruce Almighty.
Oh, yeah.
Talking about it. Back to you, fuckers.
Yeah.
But I never knew what it was. Apparently, it is the national ratings period. So,
Okay.
like, people are paying attention to who's tuning into what, etc.
Right.
So, Jack plans on Halloween night 1977, when Sweeps Week begins. He's planning an episode that he hopes will turn his fortunes around.
Oh, shit.
Oh, boy. The VO guy goes, what you are about to see is the recently discovered master tape of what went to air that night, as well as previously unreleased behind-the-scenes footage. It is a live TV event that shocked a nation. Late Night with the Devil. The show opens, though, with an ad for Cavendish, the Cavendish group of companies. Let's shake on it, which I thought was interesting imagery as well. Let's shake on it, as in let's make a deal.
Mm-hmm.
Is Cavendish looped up in the Grove as well?
Oh, yeah.
The opening for the show is super 70s, like late night montage. It's fucking fantastic. The music is amazing. The graphics are amazing. We get like, on tonight's episode, Christu, Carmichael Haig, Dr. June Ross Mitchell, and Lily, Cleo James with a bewitching jazz medley, plus our annual Halloween costume parade. Like everything like sucks you into watching, like, yes, Carson, stuff like that. But even things like, because it ran forever and a half and nothing ever changed on it, The Price is Right.
Oh,
You
yeah.
know what I mean? Like, as a kid, that's my touchstone to like a late night talk show thing, because I never got into that.
Right.
But I can still get that like 70s talk show, game show vibe.
Yeah, absolutely.
From everything that this is doing.
For sure. I think they're definitely spot on with what they were doing here.
Yeah,
well.
it's amazing. Even the scenes that aren't supposed to be a part of the broadcast, everything is still filmed with a very 70s style.
Yeah, absolutely.
The softer focus of the camera, the angles, literally everything they do, the quality of the film itself.
Right.
Everything looks very 70s. But then we get to the number 2 of the talk show. Like all these tend to have one of those. Like who is it for like David Letterman? Like that Paul.
I know who you're
that guy with the
talking
fucking
about.
glasses, plays piano.
Right.
I don't know why I can't think of his name right now.
It's kind of like an announcer, but it's not an announcer. But you know
it's
what
just
I
like
mean.
a little sidekick.
Right.
Like Kevin Eubanks, Andy Richter, that kind of shit.
Right.
But we get Gus McConnell. He's all dressed up in a cheap ass devil costume, and he introduces Jack, and he's like, "Here he is, Mr. Midnight, Jack Delroy." And then no one's behind the door that opens up, and Gus is like, "What the fuck, Jack? Where are you, Jack?
Right.
You're on." And then I thought it was funny. He like looks over to Leo. He's like, "Hey, he's not like drunk, right?"
Right.
He like tips a glass to his face. But then Jack scares the shit out of Gus, and he's got like a sheet ghost costume on.
Yeah, he pops out behind him, scares the shit out of him, you know.
Mhm.
I really like this because, you know, he scares Gus here, and then he's a really good host. The crowd loves him.
He's
you
excellent.
know? Yeah, he's fantastic. There's connection immediately between him and his crowd.
Yeah,
you know?
and him and anyone watching this movie, I think, like he's damn good.
Right.
Damn good at what he does. But again, he mentions, "Thank you for allowing me into your living rooms once again." And then we get Gus playing a theremin.
Right. Hell yeah, dude. Pretty
Which
sweet.
there's a pretty funny joke. Jack is like, "Oh, that's actually not music. That's what you get when you're tuning your car radio searching for music."
Right.
And he says, "Well, the interesting thing about a theremin is you play it without touching it." And Jack's like, "Oh, well, I wish you used the same restraint at the Melody Burlesque last Friday." So this is all part of like the opening. There's a word for it, but I'm not sure what it is. Basically, at the beginning of every talk show, the host comes out and just kind of talks about some stuff before they introduce the first guest, whatever.
Right.
So he mentioned something about Reggie Jackson, Mr. October, his home run streak continuing into the off season.
Mhm.
He does a little swing, and the band like helps him out with a sound effect for hitting the
Right.
baseball.
Pretty cool.
But then Gus is like, "Oh, I don't get that joke," which, why say that?
I don't know.
More of these little gesticulations from a talk show host. Jack like kind of turns and he like unbuttons and then rebuttons his suit jacket. Just one of those little fidgety things that those guys do.
Right.
You know, there's a Jimmy Carter joke right here about his brother not accepting a head position at the FBI or CIA because he refuses to head a position of an agency he can't spell.
Right. Oh, nice.
And then Gus is like, "I get that joke." But he's like, "All right, yeah, we got some great guests for you tonight. Please love our show because it's sweeps week. But do I look nervous?" And Gus is like, "Fuck yeah, you look nervous."
Right.
He goes, "Through all this, I think there's only one person in this whole darn crazy business that matters." And Gus is like, "Oh, thanks, Jack." And he's like,
Right.
"No, it's the viewer."
Yeah.
This is about where I noticed the set of Night Owls is fantastic. All the backdrops and lighting are
Oh, hell yeah.
wonderful. It's just like super 70s. The colors, the designs, everything.
Yeah,
man.
like all the soft colors and
Mhm.
yeah. Yeah, it looks like it's right out of the 70s.
Jack gets emotional for a second, which he is really good at doing. Just his David Dastmalchian's ability to emote,
Right.
change his face, pull you into that is really good.
For sure.
But on with the show, he mentions that the interest in the occult has been a major, there's been a major revival in it, like psychics, fortune tellers, and he mentions exorcists. Oh boy. That would have been 4 years old at this point. The crowd goes, "Ooh." And he says something about keeping an open mind because guess what, motherfuckers? Here comes Christo.
Christo.
He makes a goofy dramatic gesture to his temples as he walks out, like
Right.
he's in tune with what the fuck ever. And then the band plays like a very, I don't know, exotic piece of entrance music for him.
Yeah, they do.
Christo explains the significance of Halloween night to break open the door for spirits, unfinished business, etc. mentions that the masks are used to hide from the angry spirits. And Jack asks if he hears these voices all the time, and if so, how do you get any sleep? But
Yeah, he says you can turn it on and off, huh?
Yeah, he says, think of my brain like the ham radio. But Christu gives a demonstration, which is totally fucking fake at first.
Oh, hell yeah. How does he start off here? It's, how about Peter?
Yeah.
Pete?
Yeah.
Peterson? Peterman, there it is.
Yeah, somebody corrects him. He's just grasping at straws, but he's like making a show of getting the signals or whatever.
Right.
And somebody yells out, Peterman?
Yeah, it's his wife's maiden name.
Yeah, this guy that stands up, he's so fucking funny.
Yeah, this guy rocks.
Christu's like, yeah, she's in the room with us now. And dude's like, she is? And like looks around like, okay. And he goes, she's crossed over, no? He was like, well, I guess you could say that. She ran off with my neighbor 5 years ago.
Yeah.
But hey, don't be sorry. My golf game's never been better, which I don't, as a non-golfer, get. Maybe it's just because he has more time to golf without a wife. I don't know.
Right.
But then Christu's like, no, I'm hitting the name Elizabeth. He's like, no, her name was Helen, so.
Right.
He's like, no Beth or Betty? He's like, correct. He's like, there was a Betty. He's like, no, you're correct that there was no Beth or Betty. He's like, well, there's got to be a name starting with a B. He's like, oh, no. Well, my name's Barry. He's like, that's not it. He's like, well, it has been for 42 years.
Yeah.
Like, this dude's fucking hilarious.
Yeah, he kicks ass.
Fucking, let's hear it for Barry, everybody. Gotta love good, funny audience members.
Witty.
But, turns out the spirit has passed.
Yeah, this whole scene is literally made to do this. It's supposed to show you that he isn't doing anything real. He's a crock. Yet.
I wanted to mention the creepy fucker in the skeleton costume sitting next to Barry, though. Just staring.
Doesn't say anything at all.
Well, doesn't say anything, doesn't move, doesn't blink. Just creepy as shit.
He pops up later on.
Oh, yeah. Jack comments on his costume. He's like, oh, you look like you went on a shopping spree with Gus at Barney's Discount Costume Warehouse. Oh, don't be upset. I'm just ribbing you.
Nice.
Gus laughs and he goes, oh, Jack. Christu then says he's receiving something and finds a couple ladies in the audience and actually lands on something this time. Turns out this girl's little brother, the other lady's son, Edmund, killed himself 5 years ago. There was no note. No one had any idea he was unhappy for any reason.
Right.
And it's a nice little emotional moment when Christu assures them he's in a better place. And he mentions hearing the name Papa, which is Edmund's old teddy bear. And the one lady is like, oh, tell him Papa is safe. And he's like, I don't have to tell him this.
Yeah, he already knows.
He already knows. Crowd goes wild.
Yeah, they love it. I mean, everybody's believing him here. And right when this happens, the camera kind of glitches a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And Christu starts screaming about his head. Like he's getting some kind of reading, and this one hurts.
Yeah. So I thought it was interesting that as soon as Jack said that they were going to take a quick break, that's when the camera glitched. And it was like something trying to keep them there, keep them from going to break. Christu begins, screaming in pain, says something's very intense. And Jack's like, oh, another message from Edmund, maybe?
Right.
He's like, no, I'm getting the name Minnie. Please accept. And I thought it was interesting that he was so vehement about somebody please accept this message because I can't handle it anymore.
Right.
Let it pass through me kind of a thing.
Mm-hmm.
Jack asked the audience if anyone knows knows a Minnie or someone with a name that sounds like it. Millie, Mandy. Gus is like, I had a great Aunt Molly. And dude screams, he's like, it's Minnie. Fuck, no.
Right.
I'm not looking for any other name than Minnie. Please, who will accept?
Right.
And he mentions there's so much sadness. I see an unmarried man wearing a wedding ring.
Ooh,
the spirit needs to talk to you. Who are you? And then Christu's eyes roll back into his head one at a time. It's fucking trippy as shit. Oh man. It's a really good effect. It's really good. But the studio lights go out and sparks fly. And Jack's immediately like, oh, don't worry, folks. Just our old Parkan's acting up.
Right. It's common around here, huh?
Yeah, right. Christy then says the spirit is gone, but Gus looks fucking traumatized.
Oh, hell yeah.
Jack tells Leo to go to break again, and then the camera zooms in, interestingly, on the skeleton guy.
Oh, yeah. What the fuck?
Yeah. There's a really cool Night Owls card that they flash to go to break. Like all of these are those AI generated cards we were talking about going to and coming from break. Apparently those are all AI generated, unfortunately. But they are cool.
Yeah.
I like the design of all of them.
Definitely. They look good.
Extremely 70s.
Right. So we're on break here, and Gus is freaked out.
Mm-hmm.
Gus approaches Jack and asks him what they have cooked up. I saw restraints and knives backstage.
He's not supposed to be. He's supposed to be going to wardrobe.
Right. Yeah.
Do your job, Gus.
Get your ass in wardrobe, Gus.
But he's like, no, people are getting spooked. I want to know what the hell's going on. But then Leo comes out and rushes him off. And he's like, get the fuck out of here.
And this is where I started to notice Christou's he's in really rough shape.
Oh, yeah.
You know?
Big time.
Like his nose is kind of bleeding.
Gus wants to make sure that Christou's all right. And Leo asks if he needs a bourbon. And he's like, oh, no, can I just have some water, please? And he's like, I'll see what I can do. In this place, you want a water?
Right.
Are you sure you don't want that bourbon? But he's like, yeah, you're all right to hang out a little longer with us? Oh, you got some blood under your nose, by the way. And then Leo and Jack walk away talking about how crazy the segment was. And he was like, oh, yeah, I can't remember what they call him. The charlatan, I think.
Oh, okay.
He was like, oh, yeah, you sure went all out, huh? Jack is like, oh, that was your idea with the lights, wasn't it? And he was like, sure, if you liked it. What did you think of our friend Barry? So apparently he was planted.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, Leo is pretty much like, hey, this is great television. Keep it up, you know?
Well, Jack doesn't answer about Barry because he's too preoccupied about what just happened, because little do we know at this point, he's fucked up about what Christou just said.
Right.
But yeah, he's like, well, what just happened there? And he's like, yeah, don't worry about it. It was great television. I really enjoy that when they go to break and all the behind the scenes footage comes up, it's all in black and white.
Yeah.
Which makes sense. Like, why spend extra money on the color camera for those
right.
kinds of things?
Okay, yeah. It's a good effect.
It's a really cool effect going back and forth between the somber sort of conversations that are happening between people backstage. And then, you know, when you come back out to the color, everything's supposed to be, hey, it's exciting. Let's all talk about some cool, funny, cool shit, y'all. You know?
For sure.
Leo mentions, oh, we've got a couple orders of business. We're running long, late to break, but we don't want to bump Cleo again, Jack says. Leo mentions that the Cavendish vice president of marketing is in the studio with the head of airtime. And he's like, don't look now. And Jack looks right at him. Immediately, of course. He's like, you're looking right at him. I don't understand. What the fuck?
I feel like if something like that was happening, I wouldn't point that out. All that's doing is making it worse on Jack, you know?
Well, I think he had to point it out because they wanted to talk to him during one of the breaks.
Ah, okay.
I agree. Like, if it was just going to be like an after the show thing, don't tell him that. Don't have it affect.
Yeah, they're trying to get in between airings. Yeah, that's crazy, man. Leave the guy alone.
Jack is like, well, I don't have time to play kiss ass right now. If you hadn't noticed, I'm trying to host a nationally syndicated talk show. And Leo's like, yeah, and I'm trying to help you keep it on the air.
Right.
So Jack asks about June at this point. Uh-oh. Speaking of behind the scenes. Leo assures Jack that everything is going really well, and then asks the production guy what's going on with the lights that he just told Jack was his idea.
Right.
So what the fuck, man? This guy's name is Phil. He's mentions that nothing's been fixed in here since 1956.
Oh, okay.
So 21 years, at least, that this studio has been around. We meet the makeup department lady, Sammy. She's cool.
Hell yeah. He
asks her, like, how's my hair? Are there bats in the cave? Which is a funny way to ask if you got any boogies. Sammy tries to clean up Christou, too, and he kind of freaks out and, like, grabs her arm.
Right.
I was like, get the fuck off me. Jack tries to calm him down. And then Gus comes back out. He's like, oh, fear not, your beloved sidekick is back or whatever. Came back out from wardrobe.
Right. Ready to go. Yeah, so at this point, we are getting our next guest. And I really liked when they pan back in and start the show, and they have a fake bat come at the camera real quick, you know?
Yeah, for sure.
Cheesy, but nice.
Jack tells Christou before they do come back, though, he's like, Haig is on next. Pay him no mind. He's all wax, no wick, which I thought was a cool thing to say.
Right.
But yeah, and we're back in 5-4, and we get the cool title cards again. This time, It's like an old-timey night scene of a skeleton in a field with some pumpkins. Spooky Halloween music from the band to play us back in. That's always fun.
Hell yeah.
And then the first image we get when we come back from break is once again the skeleton guy in the audience, which is
weird. Yeah.
Yeah. And he is sitting 2 seats behind the marketing VP with his wife and the head of Airtime.
Oh, shit.
And then that's when we get the fake bat flying into the camera, and Christy looks fucked up.
Yeah, you can tell he's not all right. And like I said, it's funny that nobody's saying anything, which, hey, we're on TV. The show must go on.
Right.
But damn, it's pretty obvious that he's got some shit going on right now.
Right. But Jack introduces Carmichael Haig, who was once a conjurer, now a leading voice of the skeptics movement. And he comes out. When he sits down, he's like, oh, hey, mind if I smoke, Jack? And does a bunch of like sleight of hand stuff with a cigar.
Right.
He's really good at it.
Magician or something, man.
Yeah. Or something. Jack says he was the best in the biz, and Haig is completely full of himself.
Oh, yeah.
They mentioned at this point the organization that he heads called IFSIP, which is the International Federation of Scientific Investigation into the Paranormal. That's a fucking mouthful. I think I'll go with IFSIP on this one. I'm generally not a fan of acronyms like that. But, you know, I guess this one works rather than to have to say those 42 words.
Right.
We get some pictures of like testing from their organization. He mentions at one of the pictures that pops up, he's like, oh, that's me about to embark on a little ghost hunt in Amityville.
Nice.
He's like, Ed and Lorraine Warren declined the invitation. But Jack asks him right away, he's like, look, motherfucker, what is the harm of believing in mysterious things? Like, what's the problem with someone who just wants to believe in something greater, you know?
Right.
And Haig admits, like, yeah, it would be a more interesting world if people could bend spoons or divine water or... And then he, like, mean mugs Christy for a minute, and he's like,
yeah.
Speak to the dead.
Yeah, damn.
This guy's a fucking douche.
Just throwing some shade on national television. What a dick, dude.
I love this actor's performance, though. Like, I hate the character. Love this actor.
Right.
Haig offers $100,000 to anyone with irrefutable proof of the supernatural. That's what his whole organization's line is, basically. Right. Like, if you can give me evidence that, you know, cannot be disproven, then you get this money.
Yeah.
Said he has yet to offer to part with a nickel, though. So
big shot, man.
Yeah. And Christy's like, I don't need this man's money. And he's like, oh, no, of course you don't. There are plenty of naive people willing to just give it to you, which is about the time Christy has another coughing spell.
Right. Yeah, he's fucked up, man.
Yeah. Jack asks Carmichael to explain the readings then. And he's like, well, admittedly, this guy's an accomplished performer, but he's pulling out of a bag of tricks. Basically, he flopped 5 times before hitting on the tenuous Peterson connection. And Christy immediately corrects him. He's like, it was Peterman.
Right.
And he's like, oh, he's flawless in hindsight. But Jack mentions that the next bit he did seemed legit, though, like talking to the women about Edmund.
Right.
And he was like, well, even a broken clock is right twice a day.
Right. Ouch, dude.
Yeah. He goes, you have no more the power of divination than I resemble Burt Reynolds.
Oh, yeah.
He goes, we're both liars, but I'm honest about it, which is when Christy stands up and splashes water in Haig's face and storms off.
Yeah. Tries to storm off.
Tries to. Can't get through the door.
Right.
But Jack stops him because he was like, well, wait a minute. The last reading, I think, may have been for me.
Right, and right away I'm like, why wouldn't he have just said something immediately? I think he was just freaked out.
Probably. He was also waiting to see if anyone in the audience maybe had a connection to a mini.
Right.
You know?
Or maybe he was making sure that wasn't part of the act that they may have been setting up.
Possibly, yeah. But it turns out his wife was Minnie. Madeline, the private nickname that they had for her was Minnie.
Mm-hmm.
Which, here's when Christy starts to have tummy troubles.
We all have tummy trouble sometimes.
Oh, this one definitely doesn't end well, though. But Haig gets all pissed off, and he's like, all right, well, let's see if the mad monk can conjure up the spirit of your dead wife. And he ups the ante to $500,000.
Damn.
Yeah, which Christy responds by falling and vomiting a bunch of black shit right at Haig.
Yeah, hell yeah.
Gets all over his blazer.
Why are the demons always throwing up black stuff? It could be any color, right?
I mean, sure. I mean, this was, in hindsight, one of the first examples of a demon throwing up black shit on TV or movies, though, because in The Exorcist 4 years before it was green.
Right.
So
it's true. I think blue would be fun.
Blue would be fun.
You know?
How about a nice purple?
Yeah. Hell yeah.
I like purple. Jack yells for them to go to commercial. Honestly, when he's throwing this shit up, it was the worst part of the movie for me.
Yeah.
I did not like this effect. It's just clearly shitty CG.
Right.
Does not look good at all. But the screen glitches again, and there's another, like, we'll be right back card, basically.
Yep.
And then some people run out from backstage, including Christy's lady friend. And Leo comes out and says to get him backstage and clean this shit up, basically. Which is when Gus is trying to, like, comfort the audience. And he's like, oh, the Surgeon General advises taking Pepto-Bismol before speaking with the dead. Bazinga.
Yeah, good one.
I didn't look up who this was, but Haig said that his blazer was a gift from Charles Lawton.
I don't know.
No.
Not sure there.
Neither do I.
Yeah, I like how he says, hey, fetch me my my other blazer,
Well, yeah, he snaps his fingers at the first black girl he sees, and he's like, hey, you. He goes, fetch the burgundy blazer from my portmanteau. Like, Jesus, man.
Dick.
But Haig thinks Jack planned this whole thing for ratings, basically.
Right.
He's like, oh, I would have thought your high-powered friends at the Grove could have pulled a few strings.
Right. Oh, man.
And now he wants to be introduced to the Grove for the orgies.
Mostly for the orgies, he says. I'd fit right in.
Right. Jack says to Leo he told him not to leave him alone with that asshole, talking about Haig.
Right.
But now the ambulance is coming, Leo tells him. Jack asks if there was any word from Bedford yet, which is the head of the network, UBC.
Oh, okay.
And he says, no, but the switchboard lit up like a Rosenberg for Christu, though. And apparently people are calling in, like, concerned about what the fuck just happened.
Right.
A PA ends up bringing out a skull bowl and a bunch of knives on a tray, and Leo's like, no, that's for next break. Check your rundowns.
Right. Just showing you how planned out this is, which
Right.
stuff like this happening while this is happening is making you question whether this stuff is like, what's real here? Was Christu really doing that? Was it set up?
Well, the more I see from each of these people, it seems like each of these guests do have a little bit of something. Like,
right.
They are legit in some way. At first, like I said, it was like Christu was grasping at straws, but then he did end up uncovering something, which is a little tenuous because I don't know. They do mention that I think before they come back from next break, Haig is like talking to those ladies.
Yeah, it's all set up.
And he's like, hey, well, you're trying to get some information from them. And they're like, well, basically, yeah, there was a lady that was out in the lobby asking questions. Oh, it was that one that ran out to help Christy when he fell down.
Right.
So he's
So it
like,
was all
oh,
planned.
okay. Right,
Yeah.
right. So the door ends up closing on June, standing there trying to talk to Jack. Like he goes to run to her, but then like the door separates them just before they can actually come face to face. Some guy named Steve is on the like walkie-talkie or whatever with Phil saying that like something weird is on the screen. Can't tell what the fuck it is, but check it out, figure it out, fix it. And then Phil, the production manager, says that he's not seeing anything on the screen. So like, I don't know what the fuck you're talking about. There's nothing to fix.
Right.
Jack comes back out onto the stage, but then he sits in the wrong chair for a second. And then we come back from the other break and we get another card that says Happy Halloween.
Hell yeah.
And then, yeah, dude, we get shots of the band. Like, I was like, oh, Jesus Christ. These like 40-piece bands on these things. Ridiculous. Turns out it was only 9, but whatever.
Right.
Jack welcomes everyone back, and he thanks everyone for being concerned about Christu. But Haig is like, well, they needn't bother. I assure you the man is fine. Somehow during all this, he slipped his check into Jack's breast pocket on his blazer. And he was like, well, my sixth sense is telling me that you're going to maybe be eating your words with our next guests. And Carmichael's like, oh, I'm giddy with excitement. And Jack is like, shut the fuck up, Car! No, he doesn't say that. He's like, no, you should be excited because this is going to be some shit. Get ready. Jack starts to introduce the next guests, but he stops. because he hears a siren.
Yeah, you can hear the ambulance siren.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, ambulance coming to collect Christu.
Right.
Jack says about a month ago, the book Conversations with the Devil came across his desk, and he hasn't been able to stop thinking about it. And he plays a clip at this point of the documentary footage and warns everyone that what they're about to see is profoundly disturbing and shocking. And it's just this little house, and it's apparently on the inside is the first church of Abraxas. Fuck.
Like some kind of satanic cult, man.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, led by Xandor Diabo. And he mentions Abraxas shows us that there is no good, no evil, no redemption, only what we desire and how we obtain it. The master demands sacrifice.
Damn.
Apparently not long after, though, the FBI got involved because there were claims of kidnapping and firearms offenses, and then children being bred for human sacrifice.
Yeah, whoa. Holy fuck.
He mentions anyone who witnesses these rituals will fall under the spell of Abraxas and do his bidding. And then we get the quote again from him, and so it is done.
Oh, okay.
I'm not sure what this is referring to. I want to say, of my limited biblical knowledge, that when Jesus died on the cross, like one of his last things that he said was like, it is finished or something like that. So I don't know if this is maybe a reference to that or something like it.
Mm-hmm.
Apparently in August 1974, several agents laid siege to the house, and after a 3-day standoff, everyone inside the house set it and themselves on fire.
Yeah, damn. Going down, dude.
Yeah, in an earlier round.
Yeah, and they ended up pulling out Lily.
Mm-hmm. At 10 years old.
Yeah, only survivor left.
Mm-hmm. She says she doesn't remember much of what happened in the house. And basically the question is, did she get lucky to escape this, or was this also planned that she was supposed to get out?
Oh, that's fucked up. That's part of the master plan.
Thinking of a master plan. June and Lily end up meeting because of this, and they connect. And in their first recorded session, Lily starts breathing all crazy, and then screams with a layered voice. It's like her voice, but then a deeper one underneath, which is fun.
Yeah, fuck yeah.
So they finally introduce them on the show. June and Lily come out, or should I say June comes out, and then Lily hangs back for a second and then makes a big dramatic entrance that Gus and Jack both react to strangely. Like Gus is looking like, what the fuck is this little bitch doing?
Right.
And then I don't know if it's because of that or the handshake that she's giving Jack maybe, but he's like, whoa, like good to meet you.
Yeah, I like here he says, I'm glad you could join us tonight. And Lily says, glad you could join us too.
Mm-hmm.
This kid is fucking weird.
Yeah, Lily immediately starts staring at the camera.
Yeah.
Doesn't break eye contact with the camera. Jack says, so good to see you again, June. That's where Lily says, yeah, I'm glad you could join us too. And it's like, oh shit, what does she know?
Right.
But Jack's like, well, I want to start with a tough question if you don't mind. Do you watch my show? She's like, no, I'm usually in bed by now. But she's like, again, speaking to the camera, and then Jack's like, well, you can actually just talk to me and you can call me Jack.
Right.
And she's like, oh, well, of course, sure. June thinks you're very handsome, Jack. Like, oh, hey,
yeah,
whoa.
Damn. Uncomfortable, huh?
She immediately starts talking about his dead wife. Like, oh, I know what it's like to lose people close to you, but don't worry, you'll get through.
Yeah.
Like,
very insightful for a 10-year-old kid.
Well, she's 13 now, but still.
Right.
He's like, yes, wise words from someone so young, huh? And then she goes, also, don't worry about your TV show. You're going to be very famous soon.
Yeah.
Like, damn, dude, what does she know? Creepy. He's like, all right, well, we're going to take another break, but on the other side, that's right, the other side, we're going to learn about these lovely ladies, whatever. Lily again staring into the camera. And then when they go to break, she's still trying to figure out, she's like, oh, what camera do I look at now? And he's like, oh, well, it's not on air right now, so none.
Yeah, none of them.
It's like, it's time to make ourselves pretty again. And in a very adult sounding voice, she's like, don't I already look pretty, Jack?
Yeah, what the fuck?
A lot that comes from her is pretty unsettling. And then she jumps right back into, because Sammy walks up and she starts doing her makeup or whatever. And she's like, hi, I'm Lily.
Yeah.
Like, Jesus Christ.
It's the demon, man.
And I don't know if it's someone in the audience or someone in the crew, but someone's like, wow, weird kid.
Yeah. They're not wrong, man. Anytime there's a kid in any of these movies, fucking scary.
Yeah.
They're always up to no good.
Right? What's funny to me is that June mentions having to like summon the demon.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that the demon has been in control this entire time. Like from the moment she walked out onto the stage.
Right.
June tells Jack she needs to talk in private and says that they need to pull the plug on this whole thing. She's like, look, yesterday she went into a fugue state and kept saying your name.
Yeah, whoa.
But Jack doesn't give a shit, man. He's all about the ratings and needing to save this show. And he's like, don't worry about it. You're not going to back out. This is your time. But June's like, fuck you. My responsibility is to Lily, and this is too risky. I'm telling you.
I think she's an idiot. If she was saying that shit yesterday, why would you still bring her to the studio?
Why even show up?
You might as well just get part of the way through the episode and say it. And I get it. It's funny, but I just laugh that her judgment isn't the greatest either.
Or was it just her wanting to come back and see Jack?
Ooh, spill the tea, Dusty.
Leo ends up walking up to tell Jack that Christy is fucking dead.
Holy shit.
Jack is like, wow, what are you talking about, man? Like I was talking to him 20 minutes ago.
Yeah. Hey, by the way, Christy's dead.
Yeah. He's like, well, I thought it was like part of his act. What did Haig called it, like spouting or something? He was like, yeah, but apparently he was spouting from fucking everywhere. And the paramedics couldn't get it under control. And
holy shit.
He expired.
Yeah, by the way, don't tell anybody.
Yeah, Jack says no one can find out, especially Gus. So, poor little Gus. Is it just because he's sensitive?
I think so. They don't want to spook everybody. They got to finish this. They got to finish this show, man. I like right here. I
already know what you're gonna say.
He says, it's like one of the stage guys.
Yeah, it's Phil.
Where's my sacrificial dagger? We're on in 60. Hell yeah,
Where's
dude.
my sacrificial dagger?
Awesome.
He still walks over to the monitor, though. He's like, I'm still not seeing anything on the fucking monitor, Steve. Gus is freaking out about shit, trying to get Phil's attention, but just can't. Like, Phil doesn't give a shit. He's like, we're on in less than a minute. Leave me the fuck alone. Hey, Steve, there's nothing on the camera. Where the fuck is my sacrificial dagger? We got to get this shit rolling.
Yeah, let's roll.
But this is where we see Carmichael talking to the ladies in the audience. They tell him about the lady from earlier, asking him questions.
Right.
We get more of the cool, creepy music to play us back in again.
Yeah, so essentially at this point now, from Carr asking, we know that Christo's, all of his shit was fake, minus something having to do with Jack.
Not necessarily, because they didn't ask the right question, is my stance on it. Because the two ladies were like, yeah, the lady was out there asking questions, but didn't mention what. They didn't mention what they talked about.
See, I thought this totally spilled the beans. Christo wasn't there asking the questions, but he had somebody that was passing back and forth.
From Carmichael's perspective, that's all he needs to hear.
Right.
Like, yeah, obviously this shit was faked.
Right.
But we're not, as the audience, we're not getting the information of like
100%.
What questions were asked. Because that if nothing was asked about Edmund, then Christo could still be legit.
Right.
You know?
That's true.
But now Jack is interviewing June. And he's like, all right, so you call yourself a parapsychologist. And she's like, hey, I call myself a parapsychologist because that's what I am, motherfucker.
Right.
I got a PhD on the subject, as a matter of fact. And Carmichael keeps interrupting, and June's like, well, this isn't conducive to a fucking productive interview if he's just going to keep talking shit the whole time. Because she's like, yeah, I got a PhD on the subject. And Carmichael's like, oh, from the University of Hogwash, if I'm not mistaken. And she's like, no, Stanford, dick.
Right.
And he's like, oh, well, what's the difference? What's the difference? What are you talking about? That's one of the most prestigious universities in the country. Like,
right.
June mentions that, like, yes, okay, science can't understand some of the phenomena that she studies. And some of those things are including but not limited to demonic possession, which she prefers to call psychic infestation. But she agrees that, yes, that's one of the things. That's the topic of my book, basically.
Right.
But June has been trying to grasp the nature of the demon that exists within Lily, who she thinks is probably a minor deity who serves Abraxas. I like Laura Gordon as June a lot. She brings a really cool energy to all of this. She makes sense as this character. but she does say credulity. Which, there's nothing wrong with that, but like that particular word, in my opinion, you got to say it all fancy and old Englishy, and you got to do the credulity. So they start to look at pieces from June's personal collection, including that sacrificial dagger. And Carr does like a bit with it. He like grabs it and he's like, "Oh no, save yourselves, everyone!"
Right.
June gets pissed. She's like, "We didn't come here for your entertainment."
Yeah.
And he's like, to the contrary, Abraxas is the consummate showman and craves an audience. His name, in fact, is the source of the magician's favorite incantation, which Lily then confirms is Abracadabra.
Yeah.
But we find out at this point that she calls him Mr. Wriggles, which Abracadabra, by the way, that was another thing, crossover into our previous episode. Or actually, we're planning on releasing this before that. Shit.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so yeah, Abracadabra is coming up. Spoilers, everybody, I guess, in retrospect, for ready or not. Whether you're ready or not. Lily says that June thinks that there's a demon inside all of us, but we can't always control them. Which is when the theremin starts fucking playing on its own.
Yeah, Gus's crazy ass theremin, man. Hits these crazy levels. Glasses are shattering, you know?
Yeah. But he doesn't know how to turn it off. Like he goes to try to, but the thing like electrocutes him twice. Like zaps him hard as fuck.
Well, that's when Carr's kind of, "Hey, you idiots, watch out."
Right.
Pulls the plug out of the amp and everything's fine.
He's like, "It was feeding back through your PA system."
Yeah, you idiots. Lily says it was Mr. Wriggles.
Yeah, man. And she fucking throws some fucking, not even shade, like she's just calling him out. She's like, "Why must you be so condescending, Mr. Haig?"
Right.
Like, yeah, why must you fuck? I don't like that dude at all. Jack asks if what she means to say is that the demon is here, and her response, which is the second time she does this, I found it interesting, which like there's just this sort of pregnant pause, and she's just like, "Mm-hmm."
Creepy.
It is. It's definitely creepy. Jack wants to bring him on the show, but of course June is against it. But of course the audience is like, "Oh no, come on, yeah, let's do it.
Right.
We can do it. Come on."
The most easily persuaded person I've ever met or seen. And you know what I mean? It's crazy. She's all pissed at him too.
But I mean, in that situation, I suppose it would feel different. I don't know. But she goes, "Well, I suppose if we have full cooperation of everyone here, audience, guests, crew, fucking everyone, maybe we can give a brief demonstration." Jack, of course, mentions the people have spoken. And he goes, "After the break, we'll attempt to commune with the devil."
Damn.
And when they go to break, dude, June is so pissed.
Yeah, absolutely.
She's like, "You bastard, you fucking ambushed me." Jack's like, "Don't worry about it, man. It's your moment to prove people like this ass bag over here, Carmichael, wrong."
Right. Ass bag.
That's verbatim the line that David Desmalchi says in this movie, Jason. Shut the fuck up.
This ass bag.
But June is like, for a talk show host, you're a terrible listener because I told you no less than 10 minutes ago this was not a good idea.
Right.
I did not want to fucking do this. Lily is, I don't want to subject her to this. I don't want to subject anyone else to this. This is bad fucking news. You don't get it, man.
You don't care, man. Ratings. It's all ratings.
Everything, yeah. Gus wants to talk to Jack at this point, and June asks Phil to grab the restraints in the back, which gives Gus a chance to talk to Jack, and he's basically telling him, like, "Look, dude, you're messing with things that you don't understand."
Right.
And he says, like, "You're not a bad man, Jack," but he just says he's trying to save their fucking show.
Yeah.
And he also mentions, like, Gus says something about some of the crew talking about jumping ship or whatever.
Yeah, before something bad happens.
Right. But then Jack, his response here is kind of interesting, is the closest he gets to menacing through any of this. Like, that's not his character.
Right.
But in this moment, he's like, "No one's going anywhere, goddammit."
Right.
Like,
we're on to something.
It's a little stirring, yeah.
Yeah.
June straps Lily into her seat, and there's no music for this intro when they come back from break. It's totally silent.
Yeah, dude, I really like this. He's standing super close to the camera.
Well, he walks up from the darkness. Like, basically, they're in the background, June and Lily in their respective
like in
seats.
the dark, kind of.
In the dark, and then Jack walks up from behind June and, like, into the camera where the spotlight is. And he's like, it's a really cool... puts an entirely different energy, obviously, into this next segment. Lily is already acting weird, like posing when the camera finally does get to her. She's like, she's strapped into this thing, but she keeps on like moving her shoulder and like smiling, and it's fucking weird.
Yeah.
I don't know what she's doing, but I don't like it.
Everything she does is not cool.
Mm-hmm. June mentions at this point, like, everybody needs to shut the fuck up. Okay? Let me say that one more time, a little louder for the people in the back. Everyone needs to shut the fuck up, including you coughing over there, Jason. Don't think I didn't see that. She goes, it's important everyone remain calm and quiet. Lily's focus has to stay with me. And Lily slowly turns to look to her and like looks at the camera again, like on the way to her.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what her fucking fixation with this is.
Yeah, I don't know. That's a constant though.
But when Mr. Wriggles finally does come, the camera glitches. It looks for a moment like it's not going to happen.
Right.
But then we get the camera glitch, more like unnatural movement from Lily. Like all of a sudden she's like struggling in her restraints.
Yeah.
And then she begins laughing, which that's always fun. And her face is completely different now.
Yeah. She's got like, I don't know, some scarring or tearing. And
I didn't look to confirm, but I wonder if it was a completely different person playing that role in that moment.
I didn't think so, but it could have been.
Like, I feel like the features on the face were decidedly more masculine in that moment.
Okay.
And speaking of masculine, there's also another deeper voice that joins hers when she talks now.
Yeah. Like a high pitch, low pitch thing.
Yeah. She mentions, you know who I am, doctor. She says that she's there to help her find out what her purpose is or something like that. And she's like, my purpose? He's here, isn't he?
Oh,
and then
shit.
Looks directly at Jack.
Right.
And Jack's like, yeah, I don't think we've been acquainted. And this entity's like, don't be a fool. We go way back. We met amongst the tall trees. Don't you remember?
Yeah. Holy
So here
shit.
we go back to the Grove reference. The entity starts talking to June again. And she's like, be careful. You know what happened to his last whore. She died an ugly, ugly death.
Yeah. Oh.
And then starts singing. Jack and June went up the hill to fuck each other's brains out. And I think it's interesting that because it's a live broadcast, like they had the foresight to pay attention to this detail that I liked a lot. The first time she says it, you hear all of it. Jack and June went up the hill to fuck each other's brains out, clear as a bell. On the second one, they beep out fuck.
Oh, okay.
Because it's a live broadcast and they have to censor it.
Yeah.
They weren't expecting her to just all of a sudden say fuck.
Yeah, I didn't notice that.
Yeah. This movie's great. I really like this layered voice a lot.
Yeah, it's good.
And it keeps changing. Like, there are moments where it's Lily. There are also moments where it's Minnie.
Oh, yeah.
And I think they're maybe even throwing another one in there too, but I'm not sure.
Right.
June ends up smacking Lily to like snap her out of it, I guess.
Yeah, she's definitely not in control at all.
Yeah, not even a little bit. As soon as she smacks her, Lily's like, why would you hurt me like that, June? But she's playing possum because as soon as June reaches out for her, she like lunges at her, but she has I tried so hard to pause it on this so I could get a clear shot of this face, but I couldn't do it. I got a decent shot of it, but the face is like completely inhuman at this point. Like the mouth is like 4 times the size and like off, like kind of cocked off to the side.
Oh shit! Okay,
it's a gnarly ass face.
Oh yeah.
I think I might have seen a meme of it the other day on Facebook, but I'll have to see if I can hunt that down again. Definitely not human in this moment, at least not completely. But Jack rushes up and June like starts speaking Latin, and then Lily matches her speech, like whatever she's saying about you were cursed by Annam and Antum and blah 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 blah. All of a sudden, the demon starts saying it along with her,
right?
Like, finishes it with her.
Yeah, I thought it was some kind of chant trying to get back control of the situation or something, you know, calm the demon down or some shit, you know.
Right. Lily turns to Jack and now says in Minnie's voice, "How could you let it happen, Jack?"
Yeah, holy fuck.
So electricity courses through the ceiling at this point, which is always what you want in a 1970s television studio. And Lily begins to fucking levitate.
Yeah, damn. Chairs floating here and gaining. You know what I mean? Like, it starts off a little low to the ground, goes up a couple feet or so.
Yeah, I'd say her knees are about at June's head height by the end of this.
Right.
But then she falls back down and immediately is transformed back into Lily, and she's like, "Oh my God, I'm so sorry."
Right.
And then June rushes up. She's like, No, I'm sorry. I should have never put you in that position, whatever. Everything is super quiet at this point.
Oh, yeah. Studio's silent.
Yeah. And Jack walks up and he's like, "Ladies and gentlemen, have you ever seen anything like that?" And then Carmichael immediately fucks up the vibe in the room. He's like, he wants to point out several tricks that he claims they pulled. And he's like, yeah, you'll get your chance to. Just relax. Shut the fuck up for a second.
Right.
And he's like, we're first some messages or whatever he says to go to break again. And then immediately Carmichael's like, "Is this a talk show or a fucking freak show?" Lily's embarrassed, or so she says. And Phil tries to like unstrap her from the chair at this point.
Mm-hmm.
Jack and June end up talking about they're backstage, and Jack mentions like, "We have to get you on the show again as soon as possible."
Yeah, he mentions a full-time spot.
Yeah, this could be a regular spot. And I'm like, "You motherfucker." This was the first time that I genuinely started to dislike him.
Right.
Like, did you really just fucking say that, my dude?
Well, what, she's a novelty act? Just get her out at 10 o'clock every night? And
Well, yeah, she mentions though, that this isn't a fucking parlor trick, dude. Like, this is legit. I don't know. It's super shitty. But June wants to know in this moment, too, what the fuck did she mean by tall trees?
Yeah.
And he claims not to know.
He fucking knows. And we know he knows.
Yeah. Jack ends up, I think, cutting Lily's straps with that sacrificial dagger.
Yeah, he did.
Which is fun. And then he's like carrying it around with him for a while after that. Gus bitches to Leo, like, "This is sorcery." And then Leo goes off on him. He's like, "Look, you fucking Mick shit." Like, whatever he calls him. He goes off on a rant for a minute.
Right.
And he's like, you need to dial up that fucking grin and go do your job.
Right. Suck it up.
Yeah. Which Carmichael kind of catches this off, at his little dressing table or whatever. And he comes up and assures Gus, he's like, "It's all smoke and mirrors, buddy." And Gus says Leo should have cut the whole show after Chris 2 died.
Ooh.
And Carmichael's like, "You mean bombed?" He's like, "No, died. I fucking said what I said."
Yeah. Damn.
Jack tells Lily that it's nearly time to say goodnight, and she like groans like she's sad.
Yeah, she doesn't want to go.
Weird. Leo tells Jack 3 of the crew just walked off. The Communications Commission have called an emergency meeting at 7 a.m., and Bedford thinks that this is the biggest TV event since the moon landing.
Yeah, holy shit, dude. He did it.
Jack is super excited, and he's like, "Oh, the night Jack Delroy interviewed the cock fucking devil." Which I believe is the first time I've heard that those particular curse words thrown together like that. Bedford asked apparently when June would be back, so he wants her on the show in a regular spot too.
Mm-hmm.
Jack points out that Lily sounded like Minnie for a minute, and Leo's like, No, don't you fucking go loony on me.
Right.
He's like, "You know what? If Minnie was here, you know what she'd say? She'd go, 'You get your ass out there, Mr. Midnight, and you knock him dead.'" But before he walks away, he points out that Jack still has the dagger in his hand, so you might want to put that down before this starts.
Right.
This is where we find out that they dropped the costume parade now to make more time for what we're in the middle of already.
Yeah, there's a lot going on. They're just going to stick with what is going to continue with the ratings.
Mm-hmm. So Carmichael gets time to disprove what happened. Jack mentions, it's not every day you see a demonic possession on live television. But Lily apologizes if Mr. Wriggle said anything rude.
Right.
Which is an interesting way to put it. June says Carmichael is probably also skeptical of love and compassion, but that's what she showed Lily, along with treating her, yes. But Jack and June kind of gang up on Carmichael for a minute.
Yeah.
Like, because he's saying they were parlor tricks, and June's like, she fucking levitated, man. I'm like, what do you mean?
Right.
Jack goes, I think you're just a cold-hearted curmudgeon that's trying to weasel his way out of parting with $500,000. But Carr still calls it all stagecraft. He stands up and he says he needs a volunteer, which Gus laughs at, which makes Gus the volunteer.
Yeah, no, I love that right away. Gus had no say in that. It was,
Right.
all right, you want to see some real shit? Come here, Gus. Which is, he's one of the most scared people in the room, you know?
Right.
It's great.
Gus goes, my wife likes the way my head sits on my shoulders. I hope you're not going to try to make it spin. Carmichael's like, I'm going to try to make everybody's head spin.
Yeah,
He asks him to,
yeah.
dim the lights. Jack's like, you've got 5 minutes. Make them count.
Yeah, they get some smoke rolling by their feet, so there's a bunch of effects going on.
Yeah, Jack mentions where there's smoke, there's probably a smoke machine.
Yeah, he mentions that he needs everybody, including everybody at home,
Mm-hmm.
to stare at this little pocket watch that he has.
Yeah, so he begins his hypnosis of Gus and the rest of the audience in the studio and at home. He's making sure everyone's paying attention to this, importantly. Which he pulls his pocket watch out, and there's like the second hand starts to spin, and he waves his hand past it, and it spins faster. Then he puts his hand in front of it again and takes it away, and it's just like a spinny spiral thing that you're supposed to stare into.
Yeah, like the thing from the Twilight Zone.
Mm-hmm. And then after a minute of that, he snaps and a light flashes, and he asks Gus immediately about his fear of worms.
Vermophobia.
Yeah. And he snaps his fingers, and Gus's entire demeanor changes. Gus hears something all of a sudden, and we scan the guests, and June has a weird head tilt going on. Like she might be...
Everybody's hypnotized.
Yeah. Gus says it's hot and takes off his jacket, and he says his skin is itchy and starts unbuttoning his shirt. Carmichael points out, oh, there's a cut on your neck, and fucking Gus pulls a worm out of it.
Yeah.
Oh, indeed. But he freaks out, obviously. He says he can feel them inside him, and then rips his own fucking stomach open.
Yeah, starts tearing at himself, and worms are falling out.
Yeah,
and
every
the
which way.
audience is everybody's going, oh, ew, what the hell?
Right. So Jack starts to freak out, and then Carr snaps his fingers to take Gus out of the trance, but it doesn't work. And he starts freaking out. He was like, this wasn't meant to happen. And then Lily's back there laughing. She's like, why is Gus acting so silly?
Right.
But this huge fucking worm explodes from Gus's face right out of his eye. Holy hell.
Yeah.
And then the theremin starts playing again. I thought it was pretty funny. So was that the theremin doing that on its own, even unplugged? Or did someone from the band go over and he was like, oh shit, I can't miss this opportunity?
Right. I think it was Mr. Wriggles, man.
It's got to be Mr. Wriggles. Carr then says, all of a sudden, he's like, Dreamer, here, awake. And then Gus is standing there with his shirt unbuttoned, says he feels fine.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, this scene that just unfolded in front of everyone's eyes suddenly didn't.
Yeah. Everything's gone. Gus doesn't remember, actually. Right. He's buttoning up his shirt. What the hell's going on kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. And Jack is like, there were worms all over you. And he's like, worms? Oh, God, I hope not. I hate worms.
Right.
But Carr then explains that he hypnotized everyone, and Jack wants to play back the video, which Carmichael thinks is a great idea. But the clip is entirely different from what we all just saw.
Right.
And Jack mentions, yeah, that's not the way I remember it. And Gus, I feel so fucking bad for this guy right here. He's like, I've never been so embarrassed in my whole life. And just his delivery of that, knowing what we know about him up to this point, you just feel so bad, man.
Right.
A couple people in the audience apparently didn't see the worms the first time. So Haig wins again, unfortunately.
Mm-hmm.
But Lily says at this point, well, hang on a second. Maybe we should also go back and look at the part of the show when Mr. Wriggles joined.
Yeah, because if it doesn't look like anything happened then it's the same thing, same deal.
Cameras don't lie, right?
Hypnosis, yeah, for sure. She's got a point.
Yeah. And Jack mentions, oh, well, Miss Cleo James is standing by to take us out, but I think we should bring her back at a later date because we can't leave everybody hanging.
Right.
And Carr wants to take the tapes in for forensic examination after they play them, and exactly what we saw earlier is what happens on the tapes.
Mm-hmm.
But Jack also sees something new this time when they play through it, and it's an image of his wife. He makes the crew play back frame by frame, and all of a sudden, standing behind him with her hand on his shoulder is Minnie.
Yeah.
At this point, Carmichael thinks Jack set everything up. Lily starts crying after seeing Minnie on the screen, apparently. And Carmichael's like, ladies, the encore is quite unnecessary.
Being a dick.
But then Lily starts buzzing with fucking electricity. Jack tries to like reach out for her to help her or whatever, and he gets zapped.
Yeah.
That's when the lights go out, and there's a quick flash of a woman's face who I couldn't tell who at first, but I think it was Minnie.
Yeah.
Super quick flash of a woman's face, but then lights come back on and Lily is standing, electricity shooting out of her fucking arms. Gus is yelling at Leo to cut the show. Lily's fucking head splits in half. And the electricity is focused inside, making her face like burn and glow. It's a super cool effect.
Like orange and yellow.
Yeah. Like rather than, a head splitting open and blood coming out, which was what you would expect.
Right.
Everyone stands up and runs, freaking out, obviously. Gus stands up and he takes his cross necklace off and he starts going, "The power of Christ compels you," which
doesn't go well.
It doesn't. No, on the second Christ, she like turns her head to him all of a sudden, and then his head completely fucking spins to face backwards, and he like falls his head's facing the wrong direction. He falls through the coffee table.
Yeah.
But his head was faced completely backwards, just like Kinderman said about Burke Dennings in The Exorcist.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, dude. So that was a pretty cool nod to that. I don't
Hell
know if
yeah.
nod is the right word when talking about a head.
We're talking about noggins.
But yeah, he falls into the table dead. June stands up and pulls out her necklace, and I'm like, what the fuck is this? The mummy?
Right.
And says Lily to me, and then the necklace pulls on her throat and fucking lifts her into the air, eventually slitting her throat, and she falls down dead.
I couldn't decide here. Like, obviously, she's suspended by the neck from her necklace. But if the necklace cut her neck, or if her neck just tore, but either way, it was a gross.
I'm sure the necklace cut her neck because it was thin and like it's holding her body weight. Like it doesn't take that much to cut
It
her
looked
fucking
nasty. It like her head got pulled back and her neck like opened real wide.
Yeah, and when she fell too, it was a really cool effect because she fell like almost kind of sandwiched herself, and then like the top half of her body like flung back the other way.
Oh yeah,
it was pretty rough.
Yeah, sweet.
Lily at the same time she's like lifting June up, she blasts Jack like across the room and into the door, and like everybody's running around in a panic. Carmichael ends up getting on his knees and pledging his fucking loyalty to Satan.
Yeah. Hey man, that's why he wanted to be among the tall trees.
Right.
He had this all planned out.
But here's the thing. It's not Satan, right? It's Abraxas. So
Yeah.
he fucked up. He's praying to the wrong person.
Right.
But there's a cool shot when we're seeing Carmichael do this, but then we pan back up to June and you can see the blood starting to come out on her neck.
Mm-hmm.
And then when her throat is slit and she falls down, Carr's like, oh, fuck.
Right.
So he then has something to offer as well, just like the other two. And he pulls out the check out of his pocket. And the demon says abracadabra in a cool ass voice and burns it immediately.
Yeah. Hell yeah.
And then Carr gets fucking immolated. Hell yeah.
It's fucking crazy.
Melts that son of a bitch. Leo drags Jack away, but he like tears away from Leo and stands there staring at Lily for a moment. And she does like a little Michael Myers head tilt at him, but then lets him go.
Yeah, it's a really weird. The screen almost just kind of goes black for a second, and you don't really.
At that point, yeah, it does cut to static. But yeah, the signal cuts to static, and this creepy face pops up in it for a second before we get the like station difficulties card.
Mm-hmm.
But I was wondering if it was like the it kind of looked a little bit like the owl face that we see a couple of times throughout this, maybe.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I think so.
maybe. We jump into another episode of the show with Gus introducing Jack. And Jack's like, how did I get here? What the fuck is going
Yeah.
on? And he begins living through old episodes, but all of them with like a dark twist.
Yeah, he's super confused here. Everybody's laughing, and it flashes to, I mean, what, caveman play?
Yeah, the cave
Like a
scene,
skit?
the women's rights in the cave times
Right.
sketch from earlier. And he's like, what the fuck is going on? And she's like, well, I don't think that's the line we rehearsed. But Jack is pissed. He's like yelling for Leo. We get the animal handler episode coming back.
Right, with the giant worm this time.
Yeah, that came out of fucking Gus's eyeball.
Yeah, for sure. That's crazy too. The worm is nasty looking.
It's real gross.
Yeah. Oh.
And enormous, obviously. There's the Madeline episode as well. And she says something about, the whole Occult, all those naked bodies, whatever. She's like, do you remember? Or is that another thing you've managed to forget? And then she does like a crazy inhale on her oxygen tank.
Right.
That's like inexplicably scary. We go back to a station difficulties card, but now it's melting for some reason. This gave me hard Skinamarink vibes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
We go to the Wheel of Wonder episode, and Gus says something about remember to let go, because last week we had a lady that went around for hours. And then this is the moment where, first of all, it should be pointed out that the wheel is the design of the spinny spiral from
Like
Carmichael's pocket watch.
Yeah, like the hypnotist.
Yeah. So Jack tries to tell everybody in a very Halloween 3 style to turn off their TVs. Quit watching this. Turn it off. Turn it off.
Turn it off.
Turn it off. Stop it. Stop it. Stop it. I thought it was interesting that as he walks toward the camera, there are a bunch of cuts that kind of just alter things ever so slightly every single time.
Right.
And I think that suggests that these are the multiple experiences of him living through this. Each cut is another time of him reliving this experience.
Oh, okay.
We get a bunch of, like, in front of the spinny vortex thing, we get a bunch of flashes of imagery from throughout the movie, including the shot of dying Minnie from earlier. That was the flash that we saw before Lily started going crazy.
Yep.
We get a bloody Xander Diabo. We see the tall trees.
Yeah, the tall trees.
We see Lily with her face fucked up from earlier. That crazy face with the mouth going on. And then we cut to Jack signing with Bedford again. And he goes, welcome to the family, Jack. And then we hear the line again. Oh, hey, what did you have to sacrifice to get here tonight? And then Bedford goes, oh, Jack Delroy's greatest sacrifice is yet to come. And he hands him a goblet of something. A couple of costumed Grove members help him to his feet. And as they walk, the lighting completely changes. It's crazy. We see the skeleton guy from earlier walk up in the background.
Yeah.
And then a whole bunch of people in costume, for the most part, I think, except for a couple maybe. But Diabo also walks up and he's like, oh, great show tonight, Jack. At least a 40 share, maybe even a 50. He's like, come with us. And then the owl guy's suddenly standing there.
Yeah. This is like literally just a body with an owl head kind of thing.
Yeah, Diablo's like, drink up, Jack. And then everyone yells, just like the clip we saw from earlier. There was like a 1968 clip during the documentary footage part. It was basically a bunch of people just hanging out in the woods, and everyone was like yelling while someone was drinking something.
Kind of like howling.
Yeah.
What I thought. You know?
Howling is probably a better word for it for sure. But at this point, everybody's howling, and then Jack drinks. And then suddenly, in front of him, a door slides, kind of like the Night Owl's door.
Right.
And Minnie is in front of him on her deathbed. And the background looks like the set of Night Owls.
Yeah.
And it's pretty fucking sick.
Yeah.
Like behind her bed is the design. There's a couple of different like backdrop designs that they put like right next to each other. And like the chair sitting next to her bed is the same brown chair on set.
Yeah, for sure.
And all that kind of stuff. So super cool. Minnie goes, I was worried they wouldn't let you see me. They told you could have it all, didn't they? Be number one? Well, you finally made it, darling, but you had to pay a price. Exit Minnie, stage left.
Yeah.
Damn.
Yeah, that's what I thought when I seen it too. Oh, ouch.
It's a hell of a line.
Yeah.
But he says, well, it wasn't supposed to be this way. And This is when I noticed that David Dastmalchian kind of looks like a Tim Burton character. I just calls him how I sees him. She says your soul belonged to them, Jack. It still does. You're on your own now.
Yeah.
And he says, I love you, Minnie. And then she says, well, then please, for the love of fuck, do this one last thing for me. And she wants him to kill her with that sacrificial dagger.
Right.
So has she actually just been hidden and suffering this whole time? Is that what I'm to understand? Or has she actually been dead?
No, she's dead here.
And he's just going through this like weird purgatory hellscape of scenes.
It's really hard to say what they were trying to hit here because I get that I think she's dead.
Okay.
Because of what's about to happen in the next scene, and it's all Jack, I guess. Maybe this is all in Jack's head. I don't know. I don't know. It's really hard to gauge on.
There's also a possibility because of what happens next that none of what we saw happen at the end happened. And it was just him doing, maybe, was it him that broke Gus's neck and picked June up by the necklace? And, but I don't like that reading of it personally. I think it just sort of puts him in a position at the end where he's thinking he's crazy.
Right.
At the very least.
Well, if anything now, it would be... Lily said something about, you're going to be very famous.
Right.
Right,
exactly.
With what's about to happen, you know.
Right. So he stabs her in the chest, and we cut back to him on the set of Night Owls one last time, stabbing into Lily's chest.
Right.
And he screams and stands up. And I noticed that, like, everyone's bodies are kind of like unnaturally positioned all over the stage, obviously. That's where I noticed the chair in the room with Minnie, along with the Night Owl set design, positioned everything so that it made sense that Lily in her chair would have been in the same position as Minnie in the bed in comparison.
Yeah, for sure.
So then I think his brain just kind of snaps at this point, and he starts to repeat "Dreamer here, awake."
Yeah.
Like Carr said earlier.
Yeah.
So he just repeats that over and over as police sirens approach.
Yep.
And then it cuts to black with a signal that says end transmission, but then it changes to so it is done. Holy shit.
Yeah.
End of movie.
Yeah.
Fuck.
It was really important that we push this up because of all the talk about it.
Yeah.
And
I'm seeing a lot of strong opinions on both sides.
Yeah, I was going to say there's a lot of good, a lot of bad.
Yeah, I honestly had very little bad. Like I said, I didn't like the CGI vomit. I'm not crazy about the fact that those title cards were AI generated.
Right.
But I mean, casting, cinematography, music, line delivery in general, the positioning of people near each other, like everything had a story to tell.
Right.
I was super impressed with the filming of this movie, and just having that 70s tone like so flawlessly delivered throughout the entire the actual broadcast, the behind the scenes stuff.
Right.
Like I said, still had like soft focus on it no matter what was being filmed, even after the broadcast was done and it was like him in the room with Minnie and stuff. The music was amazing start to finish, extremely 70s all the way through the credits. As a matter of fact, that was my last note on here. It's just super 70s and wonderful.
Yeah.
Casting couldn't have been better. I bought into everyone's performances, like even the douchebag that I hated everything he said. I still respected and enjoyed the actor's portrayal of it.
Right.
So I don't know, man. For me, I'm giving this a solid 13 out of 12 spinny spiral vortex pocket watches.
Hell yeah.
And I think I would definitely recommend buying this movie. Like, I would add this to my collection for sure.
And I think, and here's where we're going to disagree.
Give it to me.
There's so many good things about this.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't want to be the guy that's pointing out the one bad, but the one bad that's getting me is what's happening with a lot of new movies anymore. They build up everything so well, And then when you get and see what is causing the issue at the end, in this case, when you finally see her turn into the demon or whatever, however you want to word that, the electric head thing just didn't do it for me, and it kind of ruined the whole hour and 20 minutes I was watching previous to that.
We talked about this before, and I was thinking about it. I don't have a problem with it. First of all, this is where the cinematography and just the overall tone of this movie needs to keep you in, I'm watching a late night talk show broadcast from the 70s.
Right.
You have to stay in that because, like, imagine you're sitting at home watching this live on your TV and all of this shit starts going down and you're like, what the fuck?
Right.
Like, you would be messed up about that. And especially back then when you didn't really see, like, certainly not in TV, everything was, production quality is much cheaper than film.
Right.
So you saw stuff like that in The Exorcist, for instance, but not on a fucking live broadcast.
Right.
Why not have the demon's head split in half and, a ball of electricity be inside it? Because, like, it was kind of a running element throughout the thing. And obviously that's going to be pretty effective in fucking up everybody that's looking at it in the audience at home, because, like, that's not a thing that heads naturally do. So
I do got to say it was original.
Yeah.
And, part of me saying that I didn't like that would also say, would I want to see the same old thing again?
Yeah.
She just goes full demon and kills everybody. That probably wouldn't have been as exciting. It's been done a million times, So
yeah, I think
it's back and forth,
And it also leaves it open-ended a little bit, at least mostly ambiguous as to what did happen at the end.
Right.
We already had a situation earlier where we all saw something and then they played the tape back and, oh shit, it turned out to be something else.
Right.
And then with him, like, waking up, stabbing a knife into Lily's chest when he thought it was Minnie, maybe we're to be, led to believe that maybe not everything that we saw happened the way that we saw it happen.
That's true. I do like how it left off. So, I mean, overall, it's not the worst thing I've ever seen. I liked it a lot up until that scene, but I think I'm going to give it 3 out of 5 Gus mustaches.
Gustaches, if you will. I won't, but you can.
He had a sick mustache.
He did. The Gustache, dude. All right, well, I think the Gustache is going to take us out. I wish we had a band to, like, play us out at this point.
Right.
I should have queued up the music from the creepy intros on that, but I did not because I'm not that cool. But you guys are all super cool for listening, and I appreciate you doing that. We had a good time, as always. We hope you did, too. Once again, if you would like to get in contact with us, you can do so by going to cinebytespod@gmail.com. Or you can follow us on the socials, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube, Cinebytes Pod as well. And if you choose to support the show, you can do so at cinebytespod.buzzsprout.com. And we'll catch you on the flip side, y'all. Until next time, dreams are fleeting. Only nightmares last forever. Follow your nightmares.
I bid you welcome.